The next set of exam questions are testing the section of the revision guide, controlling plant growth. So let's look at the first exam question and begin. So this question is about plant growth. The boxes show some uses of plant hormones and the effects of these hormones. Draw lines to join each use of hormone with the effect of the hormone. Draw only 3 lines. So here are your use of hormones, and here's the effect of the hormone. So for 2 marks, you got to get all 3 right. So the different effects of hormones are used to grow new begonia plants from cuttings, used to remove weeds from a lawn, used after transporting green tomatoes from Spain. So look for the keywords in here to then compare from the revision guide here where it talks about the commercial use of hormones, because the words used are not exactly identical, so you kind of have to use your understanding and search for it. So if we're returning back to the exam question, the keyword here is cuttings, the keyword here is weeds, and the keyword here is transport. So for cuttings, we want to know which of these 3 matches. So we look for the keyword cuttings in the commercial use section, and we can see it's here. Rooting powder, a hormone which encourages the growth of roots in stem cuttings, so many plants can be obtained from one plant. So we look for the corresponding effect of hormone, and that's here, makes roots grow more quickly. So that's the first one. So the second one, we look for the keyword weeds, used to remove weeds from lawn. And we can see that selective weed killers, hormones in the weed killer disrupt the growth patterns of the target plants without harming other plants. So if we're turning back to the exam question, that basically corresponds with this one, where it makes some plants grow very quickly and then die. So that leaves the last one to match with the last one. So but we need to confirm that this is the right one. So used after transporting green tomatoes from Spain, the revision guide tells us that fruit ripening hormone causes fruit to ripen. Ripening can be accelerated or delayed if required for transportation or storage. So therefore, it makes fruit ripen quickly. And that's how you get your 2 marks. Next question is all about auxin. So let's read the question. The diagram shows some cress seedlings growing inside a box. The box has a hole in one side to let light in. The seedlings start to grow towards the light because the plant hormone auxin collects on the shaded side of the roots. So here's the diagram, light comes in from this side, so therefore only this side of the plant or the seedlings will be exposed to the light. So the seedlings are then put on a motorized turntable which turns around slowly once every hour. The diagram below shows the seedlings when the motor is first switched on. Okay, so for 1 mark, in which direction will the seedlings now grow? Well, first we have to recall our understanding of what the auxin is all about, which is this higher tier material here. So auxin is made in the shoot tip. Its distribution through the plant is determined by light and can therefore be unequal. This is what happens when light shines on a root. So number 1, the hormones in direct sunlight are destroyed. 2, the hormones on the shaded side continue to function, causing the cells to elongate, lengthen. 3, the shoot bends towards the light. So basically, if light's coming in from this side, these guys die, whereas these guys still continue to grow, creating this elongation. So if we return back to the exam question, in which direction will the seedling now grow? Well, if light is hitting it from all directions because it's turning on a turntable, it will now grow straight. To explain, your answer is simply because there's an equal distribution of the auxin. So that's why it will go straight up. So 2 marks. We have another question on auxin, and it reads, Jennifer investigates phototropism. She grows some oat seedlings in different conditions. Look at the diagram of Jennifer's investigation. So here you can see that the diagram A shows light source coming in from all directions at the start, and 2 days later it grows straight up because there will be an equal distribution of auxin, so therefore there will be no elongation as all sides will be growing equally. So in diagram B, light is only coming in from the left. So they're basically asking you to finish diagram B and draw the seedlings after 2 days. For the 1 mark, what you need to understand is that because light source is only coming in from one direction, therefore auxin will be destroyed on the left, and on the right the cells are fine, they're not exposed to light, so they'll continue to grow. But to get the 1 mark, what you need to make sure is that you draw a straight line first and then it bends to the left, because the auxin is only created at the tip of the shoots, not the whole shoot, and that will give you the 1 mark. But where are they actually asking you about this is this part here at the top, where as you can see the diagram, because the hole is only here within the box, so the light source only coming from one direction, so you kind of need to draw your seedlings in the same way. The question then continues to read, Jennifer knows that the hormone auxin controls phototropism. She does another investigation. Look at the diagram. It shows her results. Right, so this time she's put like a black paper cap on the shoot tip, and after 2 days it grows up. It's like equal to having the light source coming from all directions. So use ideas about auxin to explain the results. So for 2 marks, first thing that you need to state is that from here, the auxin higher tier material, Auxin is made in the shoot tip. That's the first thing to state. So therefore, the black pepper cap protects the shoot tip from being exposed to the light, resulting in an equal distribution of auxin. So that is why it will grow straight up. So auxin is made in the tip. Black pepper cap protects the shoot tip from the light source, resulting in equal distribution of auxin. So basically, the equal distribution of auxin is what they're looking for the second mark, but we need like a bridging sentence in between to explain the significance of this point. So that's it, 2 marks. So let's zoom in and begin. So Doug's strawberry plants can reproduce asexually by growing runners. Doug can also grow new strawberry plants from seeds instead of letting them reproduce asexually. Suggest one disadvantage of growing new strawberry plants from seeds. So basically, this is asking for the opposite of selective breeding, which is you grow it naturally. So what is the disadvantage of it? So first we want to find out what is the advantage of selective breeding, and then work the opposite way. So selective breeding can be used in the development of plants and animals. Animals or plants with favorable characteristics are selected and deliberately crossbred to produce offspring with the desired characteristics. So basically, if we go to the exam question, the disadvantage of not using selective breeding, or basically disadvantage of just growing strawberry plants naturally with seeds, is that you can't control the characteristics that will come out. You can't guarantee the favorable characteristic, and that's quite a problem because if you've got 100 seeds and then 50 of them turn out bad, you're going to lose money. So disadvantages, you cannot guarantee favorable characteristics. So the next question then talks about strawberry plants can be damaged by frost. Doug notices that other species of plants are resistant to frost damage. He cannot transfer frost resistance to his strawberry plants by breeding them with these other species. How can frost resistance be transferred from one plant species to another? So for 1 mark, they're basically asking you about genetic engineering. As mentioned here, altering the genetic makeup of an organism can be done for many reasons to improve crop resistance to frost damage, disease, or herbicides. So the process of genetic engineering can help you with these reasons, and one of them is frost damage, which answers this question. So basically the answer is genetic engineering or genetic modification. Harry grows different types of potatoes. They all have different properties. Some of these properties are shown in the table. So here you are told the property of the potato, such as like good for baking, for potato salads, the skin color, and the number of potatoes produced, basically the yield. And over here is the different types of the potatoes, and their names are Gold Rush, Asterix, Yukon Gold, and Pink Eye. So the question then carries on to tell us that Harry wants to produce a yellow skin potato with a very high yield. He decides that he needs to set up a selective breeding program. Which 2 types of potato from the table should he use in his program? So 1 mark, you gotta get the 2 right, 1 for each of the desired characteristics. So you're told that he wants yellow skin potato with a very high yield. So therefore, first locate the yellow skin potato, where we are told from the table is Yukon Gold, because the skin color is yellow. And the potato that will produce a very high yield, of course, is Asterix. So therefore, the answer here to get the 1 mark is Asterix and Yukon Gold. So the next question then asks, Harry starts his selective breeding program by growing these 2 types of potato. Describe what he should do to complete the selective breeding program. So for the 2 marks, we basically need to recall what is selective breeding. As we're shown here, animals or plants with favorable characteristics are selected and deliberately crossbred to produce offspring with the desired characteristics. These offspring can then also be selected and bred until the desired result is achieved, but it can take many generations to get the desired results. So what does that basically mean? To get you 2 marks, you can't really regurgitate that word for word. You kind of need to relate it to this question. So all that basically meant is the desired characteristics, you breed them together, and from their offspring, you choose the one that contains most of the desired characteristics. So basically, you get 2 potatoes, one with yellow skinned and one very high yield, and from the offspring, you choose the one that's the most yellow with a very high yield. And that actually is enough to get you the 2 marks. I mean, there's no one way to say how the selective breeding program should work, as long as you get the general principles down, which is you breed desired characteristics together, and then you choose from the offspring that contains the desired characteristics. And then you may also say, and then get them to breed together as many times as possible, you know, until the next generation. Because sometimes, as we've been told in the revision guide, it may take many generations to get the desired result. So desired characteristics, get them to breed together, that's 1 mark. Then choose from the offspring the ones that most contain the desired characteristics, and that's the 2nd mark. And the final question is, write down 1 possible disadvantage of selective breeding programs. So for 1 mark, they're basically asking you to recall this section here, because the problem with selective breeding is that it removes variation. So when there's a lack of variation, these 3 things can happen. So you can mention any of these 3. reduces the species' ability to respond to environmental change, limits the opportunities for selective breeding, and can lead to an accumulation of harmful recessive characteristics in breeding. So any one of these three will get you the 1 mark. So here we have more questions about controlling plant growth. And it reads, Sam places a growing bean seed on a rotating disc, as shown. So the rotating disc is here, and the growing root is here, spinning. So finish the sentences about the growing root. Roots normally grow downwards because they are positively what? So with the aid of the revision guide, we know that the hormones move through the plant in solution. They affect its growth by responding to gravity and light. But more importantly, roots grow downwards in the direction of gravity, and this is called positive geotropism. So to answer the first question, where there's 3 marks to fill in 3 spaces, each space will represent 1 mark. The first mark will be geotropic. You couldn't really write positively geotropism, it just wouldn't make sense. So basically geotropic. So now we know they're basically talking about gravity and geotropism, not really phototropism, because no light source is shown in the diagram. So the root on this bean is growing outwards because Sam has removed the effect of. So what has been removed is the effect of gravity. And that would give you the 2nd mark. And root growth is controlled by a hormone called, well, any hormones to do with plant growth, we should always think about auxin first, because we are told that here in the higher tier material. So therefore, geotropic, gravity, and auxin, 3 marks in less than a minute. So here we have some more selective breeding questions. Carol grows carrots to enter in the biggest carrot competition. She uses selective breeding to help her to produce large carrots. Describe how Carol would carry out the selective breeding process. So for 2 marks, a similar question that we've already seen, where they're asking you to explain how selective breeding works, and the same amount of marks are also awarded. So basically 2 points to mention to get the 2 marks. So the first point is you gotta select the desired characteristics and breed them together. So basically get a large carrot plus another large carrot and breed them together. And then the next stage, from the offspring, choose the ones with the desired characteristics and get them to breed together as well. And if need be, do that with the 3rd generation and the 4th generation and 5th generation until you get the biggest carrot possible. So 1 mark, breed together desired characteristics, choose from offspring those containing the desired characteristics. And that's all you need to mention to get the 2 marks. The next question then reads, describe 1 reason why selective breeding may cause problems to a species. And basically they're asking you to recall the bottom of the section here, which is higher tier material. Selective breeding basically removes variation, and when you remove variation, these 3 things happen. So any one of these 3 will get you that 1 mark. So returning back to the exam question, carrots contain a gene that controls beta-carotene production. The beta-carotene gene can be removed from carrots and placed in rice plants. This process can be used to help people who eat a lot of rice and have a vitamin A deficiency. Explain why for the 1 mark. Well, this is basically common sense. If the beta-carotene gene can remove the carrots and then place into the rice plants, therefore those who then eat the rice plants will now contain vitamin A, because these beta-carotene genes produce vitamin A. So this process can be used to help people who eat a lot of rice and have vitamin A deficiency, because now they can eat rice that contains vitamin A. The answer is kind of within the question, you just have to read it carefully. So that applies to every question. Always read the question carefully so you can identify what they're trying to ask you by looking for the keywords within the questions. And in this case, keywords is long here. In this case, it's all about selective breedings and the problems with it. In this case, what's the process of selective breeding? 2 marks to explain the 2 steps involved in selective breeding. So stuff like that, get into good habits so that when it comes to the exams, you don't have to think about it, it just comes out naturally. And finally, just one more exam question testing your knowledge about this small section here about mutations. So let's just read what the mutation is about first before we see the exam question. Mutations change the base sequence of DNA, and this alters or prevents the production of the protein that the gene normally codes for. So let's see what the exam question says. So if we zoom in, scientists have discovered a mutation in the DNA of mice. The mutation changes a protein called the MSJ protein. They have found that this change makes the mice produce sperm without an acrosome. What effect do mutations have on DNA? So if we return back to the revision guide, basically, mutations can alter or prevent the production of the protein that the gene normally codes for. That's all you need to say for this 1 mark. And for the next question, why is mutation likely to change the protein that the DNA codes for? So for this 2nd mark, basically, it's the first sentence where it says mutations change the base sequence of DNA. And that's all you need to mention for these 2 marks.